Please take a moment to increase the brightness on your device for optimal viewing. Today, I'm just not really going to talk about a memory necessarily. I was just going to talk about my interests, and that interest is fantasy. I remember that video that Anna did, my daughter, where she was, some of you might remember on the AMC Princess Anna page, there was, one Easter, she made an Easter hat, but for some reason at the very end, she's like, fantasy. I always laugh. Let's bring that up to her. She just rolls her eyes. But I'm talking about, like, fantasy, like King Arthur, Robin Hood, stuff, magic and Harry Potter type stuff. Some people don't like that. Some people kind of are scared of fantasy. I never understood why. I just think it's kind of a creative genre. But I've always been drawn, pun intended, I've always been drawn to drawing it. It's always been it's fun because you can just, sky's the limit, really. Like, you can definitely take inspiration from historical things or other books you may have read or movies you've seen, but you can pretty much do anything you want with it. And that's why I like it. That's why I've always loved it. Like, I'm a huge fan of science fiction, but I think it's kind of for me, it's harder to do because I'm not a scientist. Well, I appreciate all the scientific things and stuff. I don't want to be so off base in terms of inaccuracies that it's just no longer science fiction. That's why I kind of like Star Wars, because it's like science fiction. It's fantasy, but it kind of has a science fiction facade behind it. I just thought that was kind of cool. But it's always been kind of a fun thing for me to do, like just come up with different characters or different storylines, and making up who these characters are, what their backstories are, and what kind of worlds or kingdoms they exist in. I don't know. I've always liked like when I was little, I read the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and that was a series that I just was glued to. Like, and then when the movies came out, I thought it was cool, but it was like a little bit like, why did they change this, or why did they change that, or why is it not? They did the exact opposite of what it did in the book. Or who's that character? Why are they focusing on that character? That was just a side character. Of course, it's a movie. They have to do things to move the story along and make it more interesting for everybody. I mean, there's parts, honestly, as much as I love The Lord of the Rings, there are parts of that book that just drag. I mean, like, how long can you talk about, like, the different like, tobacco that hobbits smoke? I don't think you could really put that in a movie. And then there was, like, a section that was, like, completely like a musical at one point. So that wouldn't have worked. But, anyway, that's beside the point. I should start getting into my penciling. Kind of blocked everything in. You should tell me what like your favorite. If you're into fantasy, what are your favorite stories, favorite series, favorite authors? I mean, honestly, I think a lot of the stuff that's out now, some of it's really great, but I mean, you can totally tell that a lot of it's been heavily influenced by Tolkien, the author of Lord of the Rings. But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he even borrowed from other texts and stories and historical fiction or mythology. So I mean, really, nothing's new. These stories are told time and time again, different cultures, just not sort of told it over and over again. Which is why I think people can relate to it, because these are like kind of ancient tales and retold to kind of suit modern tastes. But yeah, and that's one thing. Like when I come up with ideas, like I often wondered, where exactly what influenced me, what book or what movie or comic book influenced me. Because that's like I say, it's like they're all old ancient stories that are just retold over and over again. I mean, even going so far back into like religious texts, a lot of these stories are similar to things in those as well. Sorry if I'm getting distracted with drawing. Sometimes when I get really into stuff, I just I really get so into the world of the characters that I'm drawing that I go away for a little while. Sure that you if you don't draw and you don't do that type of thing, you probably, like when you read a book, you kind of you go hang out in the world of whatever character that you're reading about. It was the 80s and the 70s when I grew up, so I was alone a lot, as most kids back then were. But when I was by myself, I wasn't necessarily outside getting into trouble so much as drawing and having adventures in my mind. It's hard sometimes when I'm drawing for you guys. I've noticed that I have to be very aware of where I'm drawing, like where on the page I'm drawing, because sometimes I'll just start going way off here and just disappearing. So I gotta make sure I stay within, a certain area It's a bit of a limitation and a learning curve, but I think I'm getting the hang of it, slowly but surely. My hope is that at some point I won't even have to think of it. I'll just instinctively know where I should draw on this piece of paper without even having to look up. Did any of you guys read those Choose Your Own Adventure books when you were kids? I was really into those. And we actually, we just ordered some of those for my daughter, Anna. Because I think she's done a few and she enjoyed them. So we want to help keep her creativity sharp for her acting. So doing corrections on the fly here. I decided to change which side I wanted forward. I started out with this in the back. Now I decided to change this to the forward leg. Which means that this has to come back. So here you can kind of see how things evolve as I draw them. And I also want to make sure that my the legs are not out of proportion. So I have to sit up for a second, stand up and look over it. Because I'm drawing away from you, so my perspective is not straight on like you guys are seeing. What I'll notice sometimes is the drawing will look really okay to me, and then when I stand up, it's a little skewed looking because I was drawing off from a different angle coming up. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit, I think. This up here. Just make sure we get there we go. This kind of reminds me of, so my daughter has a condition called arthrogryposis multiplex congenita, or AMC for short, which is why she's known as AMC Princess Anna on the internet. But one of the things that I do every other night is we have to put braces. We have to put braces on her every night, but we have to put her in flexion, so we bend her knees so she can get a stretch and maintain good range of motion in her knees so that she will have less difficulty walking. And what we do every night is I need to get it to at least about 100 degrees on her knees when we put her in flexion for about an hour. But we use like a goniometer, which is like it's like a compass mixed with a ruler. So it's like a thing that just you can measure the degrees of rotation, how much flexion she's in with her legs bent. So it's kind of like what I do here is I gotta make sure it's at, how many degrees. Just reminds me of that. And I don't know. I'm going to have to work on this probably a little bit more, but stuff sometimes it doesn't come out exactly the way that you want it to, but you know what, it's okay, because how are you going to learn how to do stuff if you don't recognize what you need to fix? And for me, the fact that I can see that I'm having issues with some of this here, the proportions, it's good, because if I didn't notice, then I would never know what to keep an eye on the next time, right? So it's all about being aware and improving. So I think this is pretty much where I'm going to leave you guys today. You can tell what I'm drawing here. We talked about some fantasy. We talked about fantasy. And then if you want to check this out online, or tomorrow, just the final picture, then go check out my Instagram page. I posted it for yesterday, so I'm always a day behind, but that's by design. And I'm always on YouTube and Facebook doing these guys. And then we always try to get abbreviated versions of my videos up on TikTok. So you got YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And this is the 5th drawing from my Monday through Friday series, which means tomorrow we will have a post up, and you can vote on which one of the 5 drawings I did this week that you would like to see me complete by inking and coloring up on Sunday after Anna goes to sleep, and then I actually have a chance to talk to you guys directly, which is always fun. See what you guys have been doing during the week and catch up. And I always have to remind myself to sign everything. I always forget. I don't know what my deal is. I think it's because when I was younger, I was just always, I shouldn't sign it. What am I, some kind of artiste or an artist with a capital A? I just felt like I wasn't fancy enough to put my signature. But you know what? That's what we're doing here. We're doing art, okay? It's the 15th. There you go. Check it out. All right, guys. Check out the poll tomorrow if you want to vote. And then on Sunday, you can see me color up whichever one you guys pick from this week. Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon. Bye.